What is up, you guys? This is JP here coming at you with another video. And this video is one tip that is going to help you improve your overhead press. I personally think the overhead press is one of the most underrated and underutilized exercises in general, but also just underutilized for pressing movements. So if you want to be a stronger presser, upper body presser, or you just want overall better upper body development for your pressing muscle groups, your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps, I believe that you should be including the overhead press. I don't see that many people do it, but hopefully you are doing it, or you plan to do it in the future and include it into your workout program. Now, if you were doing the overhead press, there is one mistake that I kind of see pretty often. It's a simple thing to fix, but it happens often. Now, we all know that shoulder health and shoulder safety is very important. We don't want to injure the shoulder. And then at the same time, we want to be strong in the movement that we're trying to do. We want to make lifts efficient. Now, some people may say, well, you want to make them inefficient for hypertrophy. But this is one tip that will make the overhead press more efficient. But it's also one that I think even for hypertrophy, you want to do just from a safety standpoint. And that is kind of one, looking at the position of your forearm during the overhead press, and also how far the bar is away from you. Now, one simple tip is just when you're doing an overhead press, you want to keep the bar close to you, okay? So you don't want the bar to go far away from your body. The further the bar is away from your body, the harder it is going to be able to just hold that bar in general. You could just grab the bar and do it yourself, push it out, push it out, push it out, and eventually the further you get away from your body, it's going to be harder to hold because the moment arm is getting greater and there's more torque at that joint required to be able to hold, that bar up. Eventually, if you just keep going out, you're not going to be able to hold it for that long. But if you were to keep the bar right here, real close to your body, it's going to be a lot easier to hold. So again, you want to keep this bar close to you. You don't want it to go out. Again, this can cause a lot of issues. One, it's going to make the lift harder, but two, this could potentially also, cause other problems like an injury to your low back. Again, your core is strongly being engaged during an overhead press, and the further it's getting away, the bar gets away from you, the more your core gets activated. So this could potentially, tweak your low back or something like that. So you do want to keep the bar really close to you. Now, it's not two tips, but it's kind of tied into that tip. Is when you're keeping the bar close to you, if just pretend I'm holding the bar for a little bit, you don't want, if you look at your forearms, you don't want your forearms tilted forward at this lean right here. When you're doing this, you have an internal rotation at the shoulder. What will happen is you'll see people do this to a very small degree. So they'll unrack the bar, and then when they press, if you look at my forearms, they're going to be slightly tilted forward. They'll be pressing from right here, and then a press will look like this. If you see how that forward lean of my forearm, you don't want that. You do not want that. Again, with the overhead press, you're pushing a lot of weight, and if you're pressing a lot of weight, even a slight internal rotation, one is going to make, and think about it, this ties into the previous tip I was just talking about, is when you have a slight internal rotation at the shoulder, one, this is putting your rotator cuff in a very compromised position. You're using a heavy load with a slight internal rotation. That's not good, for one. But two, you're also keeping the bar further from your body when you do that. Again, think about it, when you're internally rotated, the bar is now getting further and further away from your body. There, again, making the lift harder on you. So what you want to do is you want to keep the bar close to your body, but you also want to pay attention to your forearms. You want them to be pretty much straight up and down, and you want your wrist straight up and down too. So if you look at my forearms, this is correct. This, not this. You don't want your forearms slightly tilted forward. So again, you want to keep your forearms in this straight up and down position. It's going to put your shoulders in a lot better, a safer position for you to press in general, and it's going to make the lift more efficient. Now, even me personally, I take this a step further. I actually like a slight external rotation during an overhead press. So when I do an overhead press, I actually like to bring it back just a little bit. So if you can see, my forearms are actually leaning slightly back. That's just a preference for me. I have had no wrist issues. All that's going to do is it's going to even keep the bar closer to you, and it's going to increase that moment arm on the triceps a little bit. So it's going to make the lift a crumb harder on your triceps, and it's going to make it a little bit easier on your shoulders. So again, that's just my preference. That's how I like pressing. Keeping that bar real close to me just helps me get a little bit tighter too, and it just makes it more stable for me. You don't have to go into a slight external rotation if you don't want to. Again, I could learn a feature that's a little bit off, but I've tried both ways, and I feel like my pressing is a little bit better when I do that little bit of external rotation. Again, it is going to get a little bit more triceps into it, but you could also just do it the forearm straight up and down, keeping the bar close to you. But you don't want to do it the first way. You don't want that slight internal rotation of your forearm. Again, that bar is going to be pushed a little bit away from you. That moment arm is going to be increased. You're going to put your rotator cuff in a very compromised position, and overall, it's just going to lead to a more inefficient lift. If you guys have any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.